Hi, it's Joy and today I'm going to be watching The Witcher, Nightmare of the Wolf, and I'm so excited. It's taken me much longer than I wanted to get to film this reaction because I've been really busy with those reacting at the moment, but I'm excited. I really don't know much of what to expect from this other than it is set before the events of The Witcher, or at least, yeah, before the events of The Witcher, and it is about Vesemir, I think that's how you say his name, who is Geralt's mentor, or was Geralt's mentor, and I'm so excited. If you have seen my Witcher reactions, and if you haven't, they're all on my channel, they're unedited on my Patreon, go if you want to find them, go. You know how much I loved finding out more and more about this world, and I'm just so excited to get another glimpse into this world and into a character that had a big impact on Geralt, and just to learn more ready for Season 2 in December. So if you would like to watch the unedited version of this reaction, you can find it on my Patreon, and let's go. I'm so ready for this.
There once was a lord in dark woods where there are no bandits.
And he dies. Oh lord, there's worse, there's monsters. Oh god. Oh god. I love this already. I'm so happy. I mean, I'm not very happy because a family was just slaughtered, but you know.
Must make a killing at druid festivals. Don't usually see your sorts around these.
Oof. Whoa.
Thought you said they don't speak.
Ooh.
They don't.
Oh my goodness.
Students and I resubmit our petition. Seize the Witcher, home of Kaer Morhen,
Ooh.
and exile its occupant.
Oh, you're suggesting the witches have been staging these
Ooh.
forest attacks.
If you remember the ancient times.
Witches love a bath.
Now you speak Elion, don't you, Philovandel?
Hmm.
Witches are desperate for.
There's the world. What would you buy if you had all its coin?
Interesting.
Village and travel the continent.
He's older than Geralt was when he was left. Was Geralt very young?
In Nilfgaard, they'd cut your thieving hands right off. Make you wear them around your neck.
Ooh, this is how he met with witches.
Demon plagues this woman. Mad.
It's so interesting seeing witches during like height of witcherdom, or at least when there were many of them rather than Geralt's time. So you're testing him to see if he has what it takes to be a witcher. Oh great. Oh lovely. Good job, Witcher.
Never let them get in your head. Better dead than fled.
Better dead than fled, I like that.
Always be another monster. Witchers do not hesitate.
Interesting. So how does he end up a witcher? Did he say goodbye to anybody? I guess not. More likely to get himself killed on the way. But that is, you know, one way to prove you'll want to be a witcher and you mean it. Survive the journey to Kaer Morhen. I'm saying that wrong, I'm 100% sure. I'm pretty sure I read that we're going here in Season 2 and I'm so excited.
Drink up, and you two focus on breaking these brats into the.
You did steal all of the money from a slaughtered family and then abandon the child. Wasn't exactly your best move.
Which
A few new beasts would be good for business.
Great. No kid should be forced into this kind of life.
Don't mind Thomas. Love surprise. Didn't know he belonged to the Witchers till one came knocking.
Laura
Oh.
But when you can't,
You'll come out the trials better than normal, Tomas. On my word.
Oh. Not necessarily. Many boys die. I love seeing Witcher training though, like unarmed boys, just what we should send up against monsters. Though no one ever said the Witcher training was fair or good. They aren't prepared for this and they don't have weapons. Oh god. This is brutal. Please say this is weird, some weird kind of a trance nightmare thing that they test the boys with. Because otherwise this is extremely wasteful training. Training they're nowhere near prepared for by the sounds of it.
Do you know that Tomas and the others would die in the swamp?
It's a numbers game, young fellow.
That's so disgusting.
I hope you have found warmth and comfort in this brittle world, and that the world is being kind to you.
It's
and
not.
most of all, fair.
Welcome. He found the adventure and glory he always wanted. Even if it did not lead to the love he might have secretly wanted.
Cautionary tales, all of you. Especially the cute ones.
Oh
You
goodness.
witches should be tried and executed, no questions asked.
Silly me. Sire, the barkeep claims your knights instigated the altercation.
Why is she so against witches? I mean, I agree. I'm against how witches are made, so in that sense, I would support stopping new witches, but
Not like when we were younger. I knew witchers aged differently, but well, look at
wow.
you.
I did not put that together.
Imagine me an old spinster by now, slaving away.
She got the life she
Nice, you
wanted.
can't imagine me at all.
Yeah.
Your letter.
The tales I've heard of you, though.
Yep.
The swashbuckling witcher for hire, the slayer Vesemir.
And that explains why she's so defensive over the witches.
Not too long ago, you were stuffing my head full of those very notions. I will slay this beast for you, Eliana.
Is she sort of also hoping that his skill will help turn Tetra away from being so violently against witches?
As there are very few mages blessed with the skill to control the flames.
You're very special, clearly.
I must seem silly.
He had the cook poison the priest's meals, cut him in on the take. Smart con. Wish I'd thought of it.
As I said, corrupted.
Not all witches. You can't blame every witcher for the actions of one, just like you can't blame every mage for the actions of Boromir. That's not his name, is it? The one that killed all the girls that were born in the eclipse.
The shroud, the cloak of
Oof. Oh wow. Oh no. Good.
I know. She has that effect on everyone.
Oh god. And now her turn to save him? Yes. Just a quick point when I think about it, because it literally just occurred to me. Yes, I agree that how they make witches is barbaric and wrong and ideally should be phased out, but it's also barbaric and wrong to turn girls who aren't skilled enough at being mages into weird worm slugs to power the rest of you. Mage.
Kitsu's an elf.
Then why does she smell like a ma?
Interesting. Is it more of that? Has someone been misusing the mage arts to breed new monsters?
They used to witcher.
I do have a name, you know.
Mm-hmm.
What was done to them?
Yeah.
They're all elves.
The missing girls. That could be a trap.
Mutagenic alchemy. Its
Ooh.
secrets known only to mages at Kaer Morhen. You're behind all this.
That's ridiculous.
He isn't behind it.
Wasn't enough. Now you make them.
You think if he was behind this, he wouldn't have come all the way here.
A few new beasts would be good for the business.
I'm not saying the other witches aren't, but he personally...
More coin. Or what you these creatures can do.
There are bad people among witches, like there are bad people among mages.
She's dangerous.
Long before you sick her on us.
You won. You beat
Are we gonna see her again, I wonder?
The indignity
The
of...
witch has found his morals.
You think you're so pure, Tetra? Not a blemish. Look
Yep.
There's your morality.
Rot and ruin, all reeking of hate.
Tend to that filth and I'll tend to mine.
Exactly, the hate against elves, you're turning against the hate against... Ooh. Witches. And to be honest, if there are witches creating these monsters, then we need to, like, investigate it, not destroy them.
I tried to stop him. But witches, they never hesitate.
What a bitch!
You are testament to the perils of trusting a servant.
If it pleases, sire, might I ask where Madame Gilchrist is now?
Exactly. What an evil woman that mage is. He'd been working on it since he was a boy.
All of this to line our pockets.
Exactly.
You were always too focused on the golden.
Like, I know you want to keep your way of life, but
Humans die quick, so they spend their lives fearing.
if you...
That's the dwarves.
Now that this information is out there, they are going to turn on you more than ever.
I don't want to fight you.
We gotta protect ourselves, Vesemir.
Let's talk about it then.
Not only of the crossbreeds, but of witches protecting elves.
And Luca? This is your two's doing.
It is.
Gonna come sooner or later.
Well,
Because you're different. And kin is easier than tolerating.
You're different too. You're a mage. How do you know that in 100 years people won't turn on mages?
Children here. I'm nearly 70.
You're always the light in his life.
so am I.
So they really think that they are better than the witches when they're working with monsters.
Monsters to fight monsters. That one like the predecessors.
And who is you are also a monster now, Tetra, because A, you're working with monsters, B, you're lying.
Raleigh?
Oh my goodness. If I was one of the ordinary people and I saw the mage that had led me here leading an army of monsters into battle against the only people that successfully fight off the monsters, I'd be thinking, wait, there are lots of monsters. I thought we didn't need witches anymore because there weren't any more. What? Help!
Witches must be wiped from the surface of this earth, and all traces strewn with salt and saltpeter.
What if one day people could say the exact same thing about mages? People could turn around and say, mages are different, mages are abnormal, mages are a scourge on the earth because mages made witches, and remember how bad witches were? What on earth do they think they're, like, how short-sighted do you have to be? If the big problem for witches is that they're different, so are you, mage. You caused this by resorting to what you resorted to. It doesn't make it right. People that did this have become monsters themselves, but they definitely are going to get to the mages, right? Because Geralt's one of the last witches. He must be one of the little boys.
It's the end of us.
Oh.
Find her!
This is what you made it come faster when we weren't prepared.
This servant betrays Cadwyn to the witches.
Oh my god.
Let her join them.
Oh god.
Tell him about the time you swindled the Rendanian priest. Had him thinking he was cursed. How much did you take that fool for?
Oh.
Can't be here.
The taste, remember? The taste of illusions.
That's worth more. Now out of my head.
She is blinded to hatred. There are good and bad witches, and there are good... Oh, his hand. And there are good and bad mages. He is a good witcher, you were a bad mage. Stop that bleeding, sweetie. Was it an illusion?
Witcher sensed me in the cupboard, trembling, barely breathing, watching as he drove his sword through my mother.
Oh god.
Silly sorceress who'd crossed a gullible priest.
Oh fuck. That explains her hatred.
Your boys now, young fella. Make 'em witchers. Make 'em something more.
Yeah.
To better me.
That explains why Geralt has more of a code and honour. Do they rebuild what's left of the castle with their few witches, or is it just totally somewhere else we go? To a lake. Oof. I think there are 5 witches in existence. I mean, there must be more than that that survived. The one that died...
This is the last time I allow any of you to ever hesitate.
But they hate us.
There'll always be another monster, Geralt.
I thought that was my baby. It's too late as well, they've had the transformation. Okay, so that was fantastic. I feel like I just got absorbed. I don't even know how much I reacted beyond the odd ooh, ah, like, just, oh my goodness, that just sucked you in straight away. And I absolutely loved seeing how it was before compared to now. Obviously we haven't seen how it was when witches were like first started, but it became clear the more you watched that witches had kind of lost their way a little bit, and part of that would have been in response to the fact that people called them mutants and they received hatred, and it's very hard to stay noble and true when you keep being hated on. Not to mention that it was becoming harder and harder to be witches because there were less monsters, because they were that effective. At least the fact that they wiped them all out means that the remaining witches are going to have work for the rest of their lives. And that you even had witches doing corrupt things like faking a priest's illness so he could curse a sword, and then like killing a sorceress. Now in Vesemir's dream vision thing, Ileana asked him if he remembers that story. So, oh no, not Ileana, it was the pub. So does that mean it was Vesemir that was that priest? That was the one that did that with the priest and killed Tetra's mother? But definitely the fact that witches were regularly doing cons shows that it wasn't all good. And even at the very, very beginning, when Vesemir not only took every scrap of gold and silver off the body he could find, he then left the kid stranded. You know, I know he struggled with children, especially having gone through what he did as a witch, becoming a witcher and everything, but he could have like said shut up, shoved the boy on the horse, got to a town and dropped him off. You know, he could have done the bare minimum, but he didn't even do that, which obviously shows you that even he was just blinded to getting the profit, that he... And that makes sense when you think about the fact that he was a boy who grew up in poverty as a servant with no rights or power or even a home, really. He just, you know, and saw the life his father had lived, to then have this life where you get to go on adventures and you get gold and you can have whatever you want, and witches do love their bubbles. I understand how he got there, especially when his mentors were people that were doing what they were doing, but I think it really shows you how it was obvious at the beginning how stark a contrast there was between him and Geralt. Because yes, Geralt says things like, well, I don't do favours for my friends. Right before he goes and does the favour for his friend, he goes, oh yes, I don't do small things. I'm just going to go do the small thing. You know, he's very much, he does have an honour code, and he's never lost that goodness that has always been inside him. And I loved seeing baby Geralt. I was trying to work out which of the boys was Geralt. And then I kind of thought it was that one when he suggested the path. Because I was like, Geralt's a smart cookie. But and a protector as well, because he was able to get them all to safety. But I love that moment at the end, so just Geralt. But also that means Vesemir didn't think he was going to survive, because he didn't list him as one of the ones he thought was going to survive, or if he did, I totally missed it. And then the fact that at the, oh sorry, I was talking about Witcher still. So the Witchers had kind of lost themselves to just the money, and again that is a human response, a natural response to being just treated like shit. To you go out, you don't have a normal life in the sense that you don't get to have a family and children and, I don't know, make like kind of a stable home or anything. You go around risking your life fighting to save people, and then they spit in your face the next day. You know, I can understand how easy it would be to become jaded, to become someone that just demands a really extortionate price, and someone that just keep going down that path of money and glory and fuck mortal people because they hate mead anyway. And I think that was a big part of the Witcher's sort of downfall, because the people that weren't prejudiced against them would start to be prejudiced when they hear about how, you know, oh, my aunt got charged 100 gold pieces for this thing that blah blah, you know, kind of, and stories like the priest. I would be interested if anyone is watching into this review, was that confirmation that Vesemir was the one that swindled the priest? Or was it more just the fact that he kind of, a part of him had gone, oh, that was a good trick? I'm interested in whether that was him or not. And then obviously the key thing is that witches were the only ones who knew, or the mages at the Witcher Keep, who knew how to create these weird hybrid beasts, creatures, taking creatures against their will and doing it to them. They were the ones, they stepped so fully off the path that they became the monsters that people thought. You know, when Tetra at the beginning was like, oh, we're seeing more and more of these monster attacks, it's the witches, they're creating monsters, setting them free so that they have a job. I sort of thought, oh, just prejudice, like I dismissed that completely. And I think if you said that to Vesemir or his friend who was beheaded, he would have been horrified, as he was, and would have been like, that would never happen. But the important thing is, when you presented Vesemir with the truth, he tracked it down and he tried to put a stop to it, and he would have put a stop to it or died trying if they hadn't been attacked. So I think it is so prejudiced within any group of people to blame the whole group for the actions of a few. Now, if you investigate and you find every single person in the Witcher group was doing this and was fully aware of it, that's different. I could also understand trying to stop the creation of new witches by arguing it was brutal, it was barbaric, it wasn't fair on the kids, and then, you know, while the monster numbers are dwindling, maybe just stick with your stable number of witches. And like if a boy gets dropped off, you just drop him off somewhere else. But I think Tetra's hatred and prejudice was clear from the very beginning, and of course at the end with the revelation, it makes total sense why she had that prejudice and hatred, because her mother was killed by a witcher and she hadn't even done anything wrong. And the Witcher knew she was there and knew she was watching. That is awful and barbaric, and it would twist your soul into hatred. But really, should the mages at Aretusa not have noticed that she had this hatred inside of her? And again, it's such a hard path to go down, because I know now that we see that she kind of was crazed in her hatred because of personal experiences and vows for vengeance. And by God did she get that vengeance. But all it did was cost her life. You know, I don't know how many years she lived, but she could have lived many more. And, you know, once like I kept saying, once the witches are gone, who's to say people aren't going to turn on mages? In the exact same way. But yeah, it was just such a sort of intense thing with dealing with the prejudice, and then when the people that are being like prejudiced against have actually done like crimes. But you know, his friend knew nothing, Vesemir knew nothing. Most witches wouldn't have done anything. It was just the sort of one that had become the head guy and the mages that knew about it. And there are so many other ways. You know, yes, it's your witcher way of life might be being threatened, but if you kind of become bodyguard, I know it's not like noble, but there are things you can do that can still be worthwhile, that can still be putting coin on the table. Maybe you don't need to take in as many boys as you did, or any boys, especially when so many of them die. But it's really telling of how you can kind of become the monster that they hate, and then they have the excuse to go up against you. And of course, the minute that will happen, Tetra was going to use it. And then the fact that she even was lying to to Kitsu, lying to everybody about what happened exactly. I loved seeing the elves. I loved seeing Filavandrel again, and sort of, I'm very intrigued about whether we're ever going to see the hybrid elf girl again, or whether that's just kind of, you know, showing that Vesemir had mercy in him. and that goodness and honour that he's going to help foster in the kids already in there, and that Tetra was kind of a cold-blooded killer of anything that's different, despite being different herself. I don't know, but that was just so interesting, seeing the elves again, and kind of, for all that she's going up against this, she's human of origin, and yet humans are the ones that destroy the elves, which again is a genocide, just like she tried to perpetuate on the witches, even if witches were kind of a man-made phenomenon, or mage-made phenomenon. It just, this world is one that does not hold back. It is gritty, and it is gory, and terrible things happen every other second, but if when you look back in history, that is life. So I don't hate on that by any means. You know, it's even the very nature of how they make witches, which I love that we got to see, as awful as it was, is not good, and I don't think anyone would argue it was good. And even Geralt trying to say to his mother, like, you did that, you knew what was going to happen to me. But then what happens to mages is pretty shit too, because they become slugs. This world is just so fascinating, and I adore it. And I don't know whether I'd heard much about that kingdom before. I've already forgotten what it's called. It's called like Kidan or something, which I don't think was one that we ventured into in the first season of The Witcher. I mainly remember Nilfgaard, Sintra, and Aiden, to be honest. So, oh, and the Terrestrial. No. The one that had the Striga. But other than that, I don't remember too many. But this just, oh, it was so good. And seeing Vesemir, where he started his origin story, that he is one of the very rare people that chose to become a Witcher. And you can kind of see why. It's the same reason why, you know, young boys and girls, if they've been allowed, but young boys have joined armies and military campaigns and gone on crusades and things because they think it's going to be this life of wonderful glory. And yes, he did find some of that after a pretty traumatising childhood. And then now we know Geralt, I mean, I think he'd already kind of confirmed that. Geralt had a pretty traumatising childhood. Not only did his mother dump him on the side of the road to become a Witcher, but then he was present when the place was sacked and everyone died. I am intrigued. If anyone has made it to the end of this reaction, I doubt you have. I will probably ask this again in my season 2 reactions. How many Witchers are left, roughly? Because it seemed as though from the ones that were at the keep, it is literally just Vesemir and the 4 children. But obviously there are some, like, I think there's more, were there just some that weren't at home, that weren't at Kaer Morhen, or maybe some of them did escape and they didn't know about it? Because I know that Witcher that dies in season 1, Geralt isn't like, now there's 3 of us. You know, he's much more, he's saddened by it, because obviously it's a Witcher, one of his brothers, who deserved better than to die and then have it covered up and be blamed for running off with the money when witches already have such a bad name. But I'm just intrigued about that. But no, this was absolutely fantastic. I'm so excited for season 2. December is so far away, even though I know this year is going so fast. I will blink and it will be here. But yeah, I love The Witcher. Reminder that you can find the unedited version of this reaction and all of my reactions, including all of my reactions to The Witcher season 1, on my Patreon. And thank you so much for watching.